do appreciate it. It's my pleasure to be on here.
Yeah, man, that's what we're about, man. Spreading some good news, man. And
Absolutely.
so let's get going with it, Johnny. Um, Let us know what kind of family you grew up in, and how and where did you grow up?
So the type of family that I grew up in is actually a very traditional Asian Chinese family, kind of so East LA, Boyle Heights area for a little bit. I was actually born in Koreatown, but I was just born at that hospital, Vermont Hospital, and then from there we moved essentially east to East LA, and then lived there for a little bit, and then I spent all of my childhood years in the San Gabriel Valley, all around San Gabriel Valley.
Did you experience racism from Mexicans or blacks?
I did actually when I was young. My parents they kind of dressed us as kids. I mean, most parents dress their children, but when I was about 9, 10 years old, we had the bowl haircuts. We had the just we just looked very very lame and kind of not cool. We looked very nerdy. So because of that, we were getting picked on, and then on top of that, we didn't fit the stereotypical Asian where we had money and stuff. We lived in project housing, we lived in Section 8, we were on welfare, and my mom actually, she would kind of be afraid of us going out often, but I mean, of course, we had to go to school, and that's where I faced a lot of racism and discrimination inside of school. And yeah, we didn't really have any blacks around our area or African Americans, but like you mentioned earlier, we did have a lot of Hispanics, and yes, we did get picked on.
Yeah, and we'll get into it later, man. But I remember hearing of just a lot of racism between Hispanics and Asians growing up, especially in that area. Even going into the Diamond Bar, West Covina, Rolling Heights, all that. Because there's two main populations right there, Asian and Mexican. It's sad, and so glad God brought us out of that. But
Amen.
going forward, man, you're growing up in a family, a very traditional family, man. Something happened along the way, man. Something swerved you. What started happening? And tell us about this new lifestyle you started picking up, and what were the things that lured you that way, man?
Sure. So, as I could remember very vividly when I came home at about 11, 12 years old, one time we were getting picked on. It was the first time I had gotten jumped. It was four Hispanics by a local gang at the time, Rosemead, Monterey Park area, and they jumped me, and they took my backpack. They pretty much stole everything from me, And when I got home, I had expressed to my mom and my dad, my I had gotten jumped, my backpack was stolen, blah 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 blah. But my father did not believe me, and my mom didn't believe me. They thought that I was a knucklehead, I was messing up in school, and I had schemed up this whole story that and essentially was just then deceiving them. But eventually, at that point in my heart, I really felt that I could not trust my parents anymore. I couldn't trust anybody anymore, actually, and I really had to fend for myself. So, I took a knife to school and started to kind of be active in getting into trouble. And at that time, I started catching the eye of the local gang, and yeah, that is essentially how I kind of swerved. Was that distrust was inside of my heart, and then on top of that, I had seen a lot of the gang members back then making money, and they were making more money than my parents, and they were younger. They had that prestigious, respectful lifestyle, and I really wanted that. And I determined inside of my heart at that time that that's what I wanted, and I'm going to do everything that I wanted to do because I thought if I did that, it would make me happy.
And
12
how did
years
you officially get in with this gang?
So it was 12 years old when I started to kind of veer towards the dark side, right? But we started, yeah, I got jumped in. Basically, it's called a put on. They put me on, jumped me in. And then, yeah, it's very similar to the Hispanic gangs in my area.
Mhm.
We did have a lot of influence from them. We also dressed like them in certain ways, back then at least. And yeah, that's essentially how I got in. Mhm.
Wow, man. Wow. And was that the same gang you would stay with all your life, basically?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We never back in my time there was no flip flopping, there was no hood hopping. So
Yeah.
you could not if you did that, that was either you get murdered or something would happen to you, but yeah.
Yeah, man. So are we allowed to say the name of the gang, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I was from watching, specifically Oceanside watching. Yeah, it's a subset, a clique, a side they would call it. Mhm.
Yeah, watching, man. For those of you out there who don't know, like I've known about watching since many years. I've never had run-ins with them, back in my day before when I was gangbanging, but I very well knew of them. To me, they were more of a organized crime. There was somebody you didn't want to mess with. Just like the Vietnamese, man. We always, thought of them as they have Uzis. They're very well armed, and stuff like that, man. So without glorifying the life, what take us through your life in watching, if you can, as much as you can,
Sure,
without getting yourself in trouble, man.
sure.
Tell us about the lifestyle. What kind of life did you live, and did you ever get busted and all that junk? You know?
Absolutely. So I did get busted, but the type of lifestyle we had was very typical to most gang members who come from a broken home or come from, a place of depression and emptiness. So that emptiness caused me to kind of seek a family, which eventually was the Dubs, which was the Watching, that became my family. And they showed me a lot of love, honestly, and a lot of the OGs. We had real OGs. We didn't have people who
Mhm.
were just a couple years older than us. We had
Right.
older fools, and essentially, they showed me the ropes. How to carry myself as a gang member, how to conduct myself as a gang member, the level of respect. A lot of my OGs did time, so they were very structured in that way, and they understood the politics. So prior to even hitting the streets, we understood what the prison politics were, and that's how we carried ourselves. So not to glorify the gang or anything like that, but that is essentially what I went through. And so we were taught to just go 100 every time, when we would go out. And if we had to bust missions, if we had to rob people, whatever, we had to always strategically plan it out and do these things. And essentially, that is what my gang consisted of. And I was a person who, like I said, trusted myself a lot and really wanted to do everything that I wanted to do. And eventually, that type of lifestyle leads into either death or prison because